If you are not where you want to be, chances are you are holding on to an excuse, and that excuse is definitely keeping you stuck. Be honest. Have you ever felt like life is unfair? You got dealt a bad hand? I get it. Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to be breaking free from that mindset. And specifically, we're going to break down why the victim mentality may be the very thing that's keeping you trapped and not allowing you to break free and achieve the things that you're wanting to achieve with your life. We're also going to talk about the difference between being a victim and just simply having had things happen to you, and then also taking responsibility, how community is going to help pull you out of isolation, and how you can grieve your past hurts without letting them define your future, and really even without letting them define your present. And so we're going to be challenging you to take some action that's going to help you break out of this victim mentality cycle. So, what is the victim mindset? Let's first lay down what we're talking about here. A victim mentality is basically feeling like life is happening to you instead of you are in control of your life. Now, I get it. Ultimately, you're not in control of everything that happens to you. But basically, it's a difference between, are you in the driver's seat or are you in the back seat of your life? A victim mentality says, look, I'm in the back seat and this car got in an accident and I can't do anything and I just deserve to be taken care of because all this was out of my control and everything from that. Victim mentality is also blaming external forces, right? You're blaming the government or your family or the economy, bad luck. You can fill in the blank, how you were hurt by other people. And listen, I'm not here to say that those things don't make a genuine, real impact in your life. That's not the point. The point is how you respond to the things that happen to you. I'm a coach of a little league baseball team, and I see this all the time. Some of the kids handle things like a bad call by an umpire really well because they're like, look, it was a bad call. There's nothing I could do about it. I'm going to shake it off. I'm going to go make the next play. Other kids, when they have a bad call go against them, they are just mentally and emotionally ruined for the rest of the night. Well, we're not talking about little league or baseball. We're talking about real life here. But people still tend to have those same exact reactions. Is that, oh my goodness, I can't believe that this happened to me. Or, you know what? Just let it roll off your back and just say, I'm moving on to the next thing and going from that. So the last thing that we're going to define the victim mentality is staying in complaint mode instead of solution mode. Okay. And I can tell you, I've spent years of my life in complaint mode, and I understand how easy it is to get caught up into that. So let me just talk about a couple reasons you might see yourself as a victim. First of all, it could be a genuine, real hardship or setback. It could be things like abuse. It could be financial difficulties, betrayal by other people. You know, I can tell you for me, like a lot of my seeing myself as a victim came when I was basically forced out of a job with no, basically little warning, no opportunity, no severance pay, no anything like that. And I just kind of got into a mopey system of being. And it was really not healthy whatsoever. But what I did is, instead of taking that on and saying, okay, look, I wasn't ready for this, I wasn't planned for it, but I'm going to tackle what it is, I kind of sat back as a victim for many years, and it kind of ruined me. And so this also ties in the second thing, which could be like going along with this, the hardship or setback, but unfair treatment in life. You know, basically, if you know somebody, you just got passed over for that promotion, or everybody overlooked your contribution to the project. You know, everybody else got a pay raise, but you didn't get a pay raise. Some sort of thing where you did what was required of you and it still didn't work out. In other words, you did the right thing, but everyone else who cheated or did the wrong thing were the ones that got the benefits, and you were the one who took the setbacks. Okay. The third area I think that a lot of people feel or can kind of take on this victim mentality is they see others succeed and they just feel like they're being left behind. And it can be kind of this anger, this frustration, like I did everything right. I like I said, you know, I did everything right, but I got unfair treatment. But in this case, I did everything right, and yet they're the ones that are succeeding. They're the ones that having everything work. So why do we want to avoid this? Well, a study from the Journal of Positive Psychology found that individuals who adopt a victim mentality report higher levels of stress, anxiety, and lower life satisfaction, which kind of makes sense, right? Because if you do see yourself as a victim, it would be pretty hard to see yourself as being satisfied with life. And so it's regardless of your circumstances, too. In other words, someone who sees himself as a victim versus someone who's in the same exact situation, but just sees it as, look, this is something that happened to me, but I'm not going to let it define me. Those two people have different, just overall mentalities. And so the one who sees them as a victim, even though they underwent the same exact type of struggle, one is going to have more stress, more anxiety, and less life satisfaction. Okay, so this is why I started a school group, SKOOL group, called the Breakthrough Hustle, because breaking free from limiting beliefs like this, it happens faster when you're surrounded by people. So we're going to talk about that more in a little bit, but just wanted to let you know a little bit about that. There's a link in the description. There's also a link in the comments if you're interested in going to check that out while you're listening to me. Okay, so then let's talk about this then. Now that we know what this is, let's talk about the differences, because if you don't know what the difference is between a victim reaction versus someone who's an overcomer, what that's going to look like, I think it might be kind of hard. So we're going to maybe introduce some things or give you a chance to do a little bit of a self-diagnosis. So when you see yourself as a victim, these are some of the things that you're going to tend towards. Okay, victims tend towards these things. First of all, they're going to blame other people, other circumstances, other things. They're going to blame anything but themselves for their circumstance. Now, this isn't to say that because something bad happened to you, you deserved it. But the point is, the focus is always going to be on something else. It's not going to be on their steps of improvement. It's not going to be on what the reaction is going to be. Not going to be on what is the best way to handle it. Number two, and this was a big thing for me, is you avoid responsibility for your future. There's this crazy thing that when you become a victim, you start looking at yourself as a victim, then you will tend to suddenly think that time pauses. Okay, a lot of victims think that time is just going to pause until the universe is going to correct the wrong that's happened. And guess what? That's just not how the world works. That's not how life works. And so they'll tend to just kind of pause and hope that, well, let me just wait, and I'm just going to sit around and I'm going to make sure everyone knows that I'm a victim. And then eventually some force in the universe is going to make everything right for me. So you don't want to do that. The next thing is they stay in negative thought loops. In other words, they start to have this process where they start to think, oh my goodness, because of this, I always lose. It doesn't matter what I do. I can remember so many times when I was so frustrated, and I would say things like, everything I touch, it doesn't matter what, everything I touch, it falls apart. And maybe you felt that way before, and that's exactly what it is. The next thing is they'll start to think that the system is rigged against them, like this ethereal system that you can't see or taste or touch, but it's all around you and it's doing that. And then also victims are going to end up feeling stuck, depressed, helpless. And so maybe when I'm saying these things, you're identifying someone else that really lines up with these things. But I really want to challenge you to think like maybe this is actually identifying some of your own behaviors. So let's contrast that to what someone who is taking responsibility, how they would act. First of all, they would accept their past. In other words, they would be real and say, look, I understand that these things really did happen, but I'm not going to let it dictate my future. In fact, I'm not even going to give it any more mental space than I possibly need to give it, because I'm moving on with things. Okay, they become solution oriented instead of excuse oriented. In other words, they're looking for the ultimate solution, not just about how to fix the problem, but about how to take what has happened to them and actually use it to propel them even further forward. So maybe you've seen, if you're like me and you watch lots of sports, you maybe have seen athletes who have talked about, oh my goodness, like this horrible thing happened to me, but that gave me the gumption that I needed to push forward, to learn this new skill, to do this. That's why I'm going to push back, because I had all these injuries. That's what gave me the energy to keep pushing forward, to make this come back and do that. But here's the thing. What you don't hear about are the stories of people who had the exact same injuries or the exact same setbacks and they quit. Why don't you hear about them? Well, because they stepped out of the story of life. And so sometimes, look, you're going to fight through it and it's not always going to work out exactly as you want. But the victim is going to always be finding ways to say, look, this struggle, this is my reason for not going forward. But the victor, the one who's the winner, the one who's progressing in life, is always going to say, look, I don't like that this happened to me, but I'm going to find this and I'm going to use it for my good. And And that's one of the reasons why I created this YouTube channel, is because I went through a bunch of things and I kind of lived in this victim mentality for a while. But I realized, look, there's a bunch of people who are struggling through very similar things that I have and am struggling through. And if I'm not selfish and if I instead use my struggles to help other people, I can cut people's suffering down tremendously, because all of a sudden, something that took me 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 years to process, I can help people process in 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 days, or 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. And that's a huge difference, because I feel like there's a huge chunk of my life that I've lost simply because I lived in a victim mentality. And midnight, absolutely, the world's systems, I like this. This fine. It's okay to recognize that the systems are rigged against you, right? That's what it is. It's designed to benefit the establishment. So I agree. And but your second point there is absolutely right. You have to find the workarounds to do that. It doesn't matter, because guess what? The same systems that are rigged against you are rigged against me, are rigged against other people, and not everybody is going to get caught up in those things. And so yeah, it's okay to be like saying, yeah, it's rigged, but what is your response to that? Like, yes, this is true. Yes, you were hurt. Yes, you were treated unfairly. You were treated unjustly. And what happens with victims is they simply just tend to stay in that point. And so now it's like, and because of that, I'm going to sit here. I'm going to wait here until something fixes it, or until someone fixes it, as opposed to saying, look, I was treated unfairly, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this. I'm going to warn other people. I'm going to teach other people. I'm going to help other people. I'm going to overcome. I'm not going to let this be the definition of what it is. So thank you, Midnight. I appreciate it. That's absolutely a great, great perspective on all of this. So ultimately, you need to take ownership of your take ownership of your actions. And what I mean is this: I'm not saying that you take blame for something that you didn't do. That's not the point of this. Okay. So if we're talking about things that are really like heart wrenching, like things like abuse and things like, being treated unjustly or unfairly at work or in a relationship, I'm not saying that you say, oh my goodness, I deserved it. I deserved it. I deserved it. That's not what I mean. What I mean simply is to say, look, whatever part of anything, if there was anything that you contributed, simply fess up. So, for example, maybe you were treated unfairly at work, but could you identify the fact that maybe you also didn't give it your all at work? Maybe you didn't work as hard as you possibly should have. Okay. And again, I would never be one to blame a victim of abuse here. But the question is, could you learn something about maybe what warning signs did you miss? Or what sort of things could you have seen in retrospect that going forward, you're not going to get in and put yourself in those same situations in the future? So yeah, exactly. Victim mentality, and we're going to talk more about this, Midnight. So that's exactly where we're going with this. It gives up control of your life to whomever you see as the aggressor. And so we're going to give some ways to kind of help overcome this and different things. So I'm going to give you one example of, for me, is when the hurricanes were hitting this past fall. It'd be really easy to say, oh my goodness, I'm going to be such a victim, because I can't deliver as much as I want to. Instead, I'm going to turn it into an opportunity to create content, an opportunity to bless other people, an opportunity to be a little bit more daring with doing deliveries when a lot of other drivers weren't willing to be out there, because I had a servant's mentality. Like, it could have been something like, oh, there's a hurricane, I'm going to be a victim, I'm just going to lay around and I'm not going to do anything, I can't do what I want to do. Instead, I took it as a challenge to say, okay, look, this is an opportunity for me to maybe bless people who are genuinely in need of help, and I can be the one who's going out there who can make deliveries for people who are stuck in their homes or different things. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about the power of community to overcome the isolation of victimhood. Okay, so that's the next area that we're going to talk about here, because I'm going to tell you specifically, I would not have pulled out of my whole stage of being a victim. And if you've seen me enough on this channel and seen me enough in lives, you'll know every once in a while I have that temptation to go back to that victimhood, and I have to fight it and I have to battle it, because I know it's an unhealthy place for me to be. But one of the reasons that I was able to get out of it is relationships. Now, for me, my relationship with God through the person of Jesus Christ is the most important relationship in my life. And without that relationship, I don't think I get out of the victim mindset. But in addition, I had great friends who stuck with me and who were willing to push me and to challenge me and to listen. And sometimes there's silence, and they didn't always come and say, yeah, you're right, you're right, you're right. You definitely are the victim. Sometimes I say, that's interesting that you see it that way. And it would make me start to think like, well, why don't you see it that way? How come you're not telling me? Because when you're feeling like a victim, you're just looking for people to pat you on the back and say, yes, yes, you really are. Really did deserve it. And I had good friends who stuck by and said, look, yeah, that's interesting. They would let me talk, but ultimately they were that sounding board that I needed, but they didn't necessarily give approval to my victimhood mentality. And so that was a huge part of me coming out. And I'll tell you, I can remember definitely a couple of times too. I can remember one time specifically where my wife just came out and absolutely challenged me. She said, look, I can't have you being mopey when you're the leader of this family. And like that, those words have stuck with me. And it's definitely a constant reminder. Anytime I want to just kind of try to do like, I've got to be the leader, I've got to be the one that's going to figure out how to get past these things that have hurt me because I have other people who are relying on me. And unfortunately, it took me a lot longer to get to the point of getting out of victimhood than I wish it would have. But since I am moving out and moving on and beyond, I want to make sure that none of you get stuck here the same way. So, why does isolation keep you stuck if you're seeing yourself as a victim? Well, first of all, if you don't have an outside perspective, you're going to just constantly be thinking in your head and reinforcing negative beliefs, right? So, if you think of yourself as the most unlucky person in the world and you don't have anyone to tell you otherwise, then that's going to just be keep reinforcing in your head that you're an unlucky person and that nothing ever goes your way. But if you talk to someone else, so I'll talk to people all the time and they'll be like, you have just such an amazing family. And it's like, sometimes if I'm thinking myself as being unlucky or unfortunate, to have someone point out like, you have an amazing family, you have a beautiful family. It's like, it's humbling because it's like all of a sudden I was like, oh man, like, I have something that other people wish they had. Like, I have problems that I wish I didn't have, but I also have some things. I have great things in my life, good things in my life that other people wish they do have. And so that outside perspective keeps you from going into this zone where you're constantly focusing on negative things. Second thing is this is if you have no accountability, there's zero real reason or accountability or pressure for you to change whatsoever. By having people who are keeping you accountable, even if it's like, look, I'm going to try this new thing today. I'm stuck right now, but I'm going to try starting to exercise, or I'm going to try this new income stream, or I'm going to try this new thing. Even as I'm progressing in my journey, I'm keeping people in the loop and saying, look, I'm trying this. This might not work. This is a big risk, but I'm going for it. I'm going to do my absolute best because I'm pushing myself to learn and do new things. But if you don't have any accountability, now let me ask you this, what do you do? Or let me pose you this question. What do you do if you don't actually have someone you can trust? Well, then you're going to fake accountability. And you're going to fake accountability. This is a lesson that I've been learning from Alex Hermosi. You're going to fake accountability by making yourself accountable to the types of people that you find on YouTube that you want to be like. So if you're really stuck in some sort of financial situation or business situation where you're not where you want to be, what you need to do is you got to find someone who is like you want to be and say, okay, now imagine I have to answer to them. If you're in debt, imagine if you had to go and face Dave Ramsey each and every morning. That would change your perspective. It would give you that accountability and it would give you that pressure to make the positive changes in your life that you need to do. Okay. And lastly, and this is important because you don't want people around you who are going to just pat you on the back and say, yeah, you are a victim. But you do need people around you who will provide encouragement to you, because otherwise you will get stuck and stay in a cycle of self-pity. And I don't want you to be there because, yeah, look, there's okay. And we're going to talk about grieving here in a little bit. But like there's a point for that. But grieving is also it should be an active process. It shouldn't be a state of being for you. So I checked up a study here from the Harvard study on adult development. People who have strong social connections tend to be healthier, happier, and live longer than those who are isolated. Even if you face more challenges in life, you're still going to have those things because community helps with that. A couple other things that having community is going to do beyond getting you unstuck. It's going to challenge false narratives. In other words, one of the best reasons that I encourage people to go on YouTube and start sharing things on YouTube it's going to be critiqued by people that you say, and you're going to have to stand behind what you believe. And you're going to find that some things that you say, other people are going to come around you. Like I'm sharing stuff tonight, and Midnight is coming in and saying, yeah, these are good things. This is reinforcing that what I'm sharing is stuff that other people agree with. Okay. But on the other hand, if I start saying stupid stuff on a stream, you're going to get challenged by it. I'm going to say, hey, guess what? It's okay to be a victim. Go home and mope all day. Don't get out of bed. Just stop taking care of your body, because you know what? It doesn't really matter. Nobody likes you anyway. Like if I start spouting stuff like that out into the universe, and don't clip that because that's totally unfair. But if I start spouting things like that, people are gonna be like, okay, yeah, that's definitely not the way the world actually works in reality. And so if you put yourself in an echo chamber, which is basically your own head a lot of times, or you surround yourself only by people who have a victim mentality, then you're going to have these false narratives and you're just going to believe them. The next thing is this: it's going to provide mentorship, and it's going to give you positive influences. Okay. And again, this is where sometimes you have to fake your mentorship. Maybe you don't have a person who you look up to in life who is where you want to be. So fake the mentorship. And so for me, I'm trying to learn a lot of new business things that I probably should have learned years ago, but I haven't. Instead of being a victim saying, oh, well, how come no one taught me, right? You hear this all the time. We were never taught about business stuff or balancing our checkbook in school. Well, guess what? If you haven't figured it out at this point in your life, and you're like me and you're on the 40 plus side of life, that's no longer on your school for not teaching you when you were 12. That's on you for not learning it in the last 25 years that you had an opportunity to learn it, right? All of a sudden, like, you have to be able to say, like, look, yeah, some parts of your education suck. Some parts of your upbringing suck. There were areas that your parents didn't teach you things that you really needed to know. But there also comes a point and say, if you haven't taken it on your own to learn it for yourself, then you need to do that. So what do? You find the mentors that you need, and you just find them online if you don't have them in real life. Now, ideally, you can find some of these people in real life. And as you keep leveling up your life, you'll be able to start, rubbing shoulders, bumping elbows, whatever you do, like, start circling in the groups in real life. But until then, start to learn the language that people above you want to speak. So that way, when you get there, you're going to already feel like you're part of that. So find that mentor if you can't find it in real life, or if you can find it in multiple areas, you can have different mentors for different areas of your life. Do that. It's also going to provide accountability. Again, another great thing about being public with things on YouTube is kind of provides you accountability. You got to keep showing up on a regular basis. And ultimately, you are just giving yourself proof that change can happen. Even if ultimately you maybe will go back to some bad habits at a certain point, you're going to have to be able to sit down and say, hey, look, I have changed in the past, and maybe that change didn't stick, but I was able to do it. And if I was able to do it, means I am able to do it again. When I was stuck in the YouTube world of around, where was it? Like, 500 to 700 subscribers, it's like you're kind of growing, but you're not growing as fast as you want, and you don't know exactly what to do. You kind of hit a level of being stuck. That's when I just really poured into growing my education on YouTube of how to bring things to the next level. And are there plenty of things that I still have to learn about YouTube? Absolutely. But if I hadn't taken the time to take on some accountability, take on some mentorship, learn from other people. And again, these weren't mentors physically in my life. These are just YouTube mentors, but it allowed me to cross the bridge and not be this victim of woe is me. How come my channel is so small? Instead say, okay, how are people who are growing their channels growing their channel? And then I was able to do that. And so even though I didn't have a true YouTube community of creators around me telling me and teaching me how to do all these things, I was able to take that and do that. So again, one of the biggest mistakes that people make in getting stuck and building excuses, they think they have to figure everything out alone. If you surround yourself with people who are actively growing, you're going to move 10 times faster. That's why I built the Breakthrough Hustle School Group. I just launched this yesterday, and I'm super excited. We already have our first school member, and it's kind of a way to gamify your education and your growth. And it's completely free. Like I said, I've got the pinned comment. I'll put it up on the screen here too, so you can see it in case you don't have the opportunity to click on it or whatever. You want to screenshot this for later, you could just do that. And I'm going to show you here really quick, just so you can see a little bit of what it's going to look like if you come over and check it out. I want to make sure I got the right screen. This is what you're going to see. It's called the Breakthrough Hustle. I want to help you just be able to see this, and so you can kind of check it out, see what this looks like. And I'm super excited. Let me let me just expand this out just a little bit more so hopefully you guys can see everything. This is completely free to join. Eventually, we're going to build a separate paid group, but right now it's completely free to join. And we're going to just help you in all the areas we love talking about: heart, soul, mind, strength, wallet, going through our serve, learn, grow, adapt proprietary framework. So I would just invite you to come on over. We're going to start doing some stuff like this that we've been doing here on YouTube is going to kind of start to merge over there. We'll still be doing plenty on YouTube. Don't worry. This is in addition to it. If you really want to start digging deeper into all those areas, your heart, your soul, your mind, your strength, and your wallet, that's what we're going to be doing over there. And so I just invite you to come. I want to make sure you guys, like, we're trying to reach out to some new people, but everybody who's been here on the YouTube side with me, I want to have you involved over there if you're willing to take on a new community. I know lots of you guys are involved with Discords and other things, but I would love to have you join us over there with that. All right, so a couple more things we're going to talk about here, and then we're going to wrap some things up. The one constant in the universe is change. Everyone changes with time. Might as well direct that change to grow. Absolutely. Pete, she used kind words. I can learn that too. Well, that particular day, she did it in love, but they were not necessarily the kindest words, but she did do it in love because she wants the best for me and she wants the best for the family as well. So let's talk about this. So how do we get past it? We need to grow past this. So I want you to kind of think about this as like a mini master class in moving out of the victim mentality. And here's the first thing that I'm going to say that you need to do is you actually do need to grieve past losses. So by the way, so school is like, it's like a Discord, but it's more of an education based as opposed to it's an education based community. So it's essentially an online school, and so I've got this one group. So like I said, we're going to have a paid group eventually, but this school group, the Breakthrough Hustle, is going to be completely free. It's going to be just a chance for you to do that. You can get in there, you can post with other people, and I already have posts up there, and you can start to level up in school and you'll gain access to more stuff as you go. So it's kind of like, it's like the gamification of education is basically what it is. So check it out. I really like the format of what's on there. It's why I chose it over Discord. I've been looking at different options for a while here, and I'm super excited about it. Check it out. It's like I said, it's absolutely free. We're not going to be charging for it, and eventually there will be a paid group that'll have a even deeper level, but there's going to be so much great stuff on the free group. That's like the stuff that people charge you for is the stuff that we're going to be talking about in the free group. And then the paid group's going to be even deeper and beyond that. So like I said, give it a check it out. If it's for you, great. If it's not, don't worry about it. No pressure, but if you want to dig in deeper, I'd love to have you guys over there. So you do need to grieve. And here's one of the things. A lot of people, when they think about grieving, they think about only like when someone dies. That's how they assume. But what I want you to think about grieving is when something in you dies. I appreciate it, Midnight. Yeah, absolutely. No pressure. If it works for you, great. If not, no worries. So when a part of you dies, when a hope or a dream dies, when your aspirations to rise to the top level of the company, but you get fired, when that dies, when the relationship that you thought was destined for marriage and you end up breaking up suddenly and that dies, those are all small little parts of you that die. And I think one of the reasons that people, and I know for me specifically, one of the reasons I went into victim mentality is I did not ever truly grieve right away because I just assumed, oh, I'm just supposed to push through it because that's what I'm supposed to do. And so what I needed to do is I needed to grieve because, you can use dying or you can use stolen. How's it going, Savage? Thanks for hanging out with us here tonight. Whatever words you want to use, but whatever it is, maybe it was your childhood. Maybe your whole childhood was, you feel like it was stolen from you. Maybe it was your opportunity. Maybe it was your future, whatever it was, something that what it is, when that dies, then you start to feel like, well, the only thing that can make this right is some form of reparations in my life, right? And reparations, of course, all the buzzword in politics nowadays. But honestly, that's what people want. And I got to tell you this. For your spiritual self, Jesus is always there to save you. But can I just tell you, for your problems in your life, there's no one who's coming to save you. There will be people who will come alongside of you and help you, but there's no one out there who's going to come in and swipe in, be your superhero, fix all your problems, leave you with a smile on your face, and then go away, and everything's going to be back to how it was. It's just simply not how it works. And so what you need to do is you need to grieve. And so I'm not going to go too deep into this. This is not an area of my expertise, but let me just give you a couple of basic things that have worked for me that maybe can help you if you're still kind of stuck in this process of something that has either been stolen from you, something that has died, a dream that has died, or just pain, unresolved bitterness, unresolved trauma, unresolved resentment. And again, there might be certain circumstances where you might need to actually talk to a counselor and talk some things out. But if you don't think it's that level and you want to really try to see if you can fix it through a natural process, well, first of all, like I said before, I'm a follower of Jesus. So I think having a connection to the spiritual, having a connection to God in the power of the Holy Spirit through Jesus, that's my first go-to. But even if that's not your thing, there's a few basic practical tips I would give you. One is you need to acknowledge the hurt. Okay. Acknowledge it. It's okay to say, look, this stinks. This whole situation stinks. When I was forced out from my job, it happened while I was in the hospital with my daughter in the NICU. Like that's when they were forcing me out of my job when I was already undergoing a stressful situation. It was so hard to process all of that. And I didn't have time. I mean, it took years to realize how painful that pain was. Like it hurt in the moment, but I didn't realize. I don't know. Have you ever had the time where you like had a cut and you thought, oh, it's just a little cut, and then you look at it like a few hours later and you're like, wow, maybe I need to get stitches, right? That's how this was, but it wasn't over a span of hours. It was a span of years that I realized how deeply wounded I was, how deeply hurt I was. The problem was over those 2 years, without realizing it, I had caused so many more problems. And so this is my comeback story. This is my bounce back story. And that's what I'm documenting on here. But I couldn't start the bounce back until I acknowledged the hurt. The second thing is forgive. And I know people don't like to say the word. It feels very kind of almost religious to a lot of people to say forgive, because people think forgive means forgive, like, oh, I forgive you. Yeah, let's just go be friends again. That's not what we're talking about here. Forgiveness just simply means that you are going to withhold on getting back to them. You're going to withhold on getting even. It's going to free you and it's going to release you. Forgiveness does not mean you need to restore the relationship to what it once was. It maybe doesn't even mean that you need to talk to the person. Maybe you write a letter, but maybe even that's too toxic of a situation. But forgiveness just basically means I'm not going to be the one who's going to dole out the justice here, even though they deserve it. I'm going to simply no longer let them have control over my story in the present and in the future. And so I want to make sure that you understand that you can forgive people. And that doesn't mean that you're giving them permission to hurt you again. It doesn't even mean you're giving them permission to come back into your life, right? So when we're saying forgiveness, forgiveness doesn't mean forgive and forget. Forgiveness means I'm going to no longer be the one who's going to worry about bringing justice into your life. I'm going to worry about bringing freedom into my life. Spirit, mind, and body. This is from Midnight here, by the way, if you're just listening and not watching. Spirit, mind, and body all affect each other. The biggest change I've noticed in the gym isn't the weight loss, the muscles gains, clarity of thought. Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything goes together. And that's why I'm focusing on 5 areas: my soul, my heart, my mind, my strength, and my wallet. All of those are definitely interconnected with each other. And I feel every time I level up in one area, then I can start to feel, oh, wow, this area is now lagging, right? Because as I'm working on building up these different areas, like as I get closer to God, then all of a sudden, then I want to build better relationships with other people. But in order to do that, then I need to emotionally grow. And in order to do that, I need to make sure I'm in good physical health. And in order to do that, I need to make sure I have the income coming in that I can pay for the expenses. And then when that happens, and it does, it builds. As long as you can cycle things in a good direction, it is all there. And that's why, again, I understand not everybody has the same spiritual views and the same views on God or religion as I have. And that's okay. I'm not here to tell you that you must do that. I'm going to tell you what has worked for me. And I would encourage you, if you're stuck in the spiritual realm, to check these things out. And if you're stuck in the physical realm and you're stuck in the mental realm and the heart realm and all these areas, that's why I'm here. I'm just sharing with you things that have worked for me. And I really believe that if you're stuck in these areas, they can work for you. All right. So acknowledge the hurt, forgive, and then you need to find meaning in the struggle. And this is the big thing. The big thing that I would emphasize to you is this: you need to find meaning. You got to find a reason. And we've shared some other quotes, but a quote from the Bible says, God comforts us in all of our troubles so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we ourselves have received from God, right? So the principle is you're going to go through bad things in life. Everybody's going to go through bad things in life. But you, when you go through those bad things, can use them to help other people. So if you've undergone trauma and abuse, then hopefully you can get to a point of healing enough where then you can help other people to either avoid those situations from the wisdom that you have, or help them through something with the things that you have learned through that thing. Studies show that holding on to resentment leads to higher blood pressure, anxiety, and depression. That comes from Journal of Behavioral Medicine. Okay, we want to be living healthy, and like Midnight is saying, everything is interconnected. And again, I'm just going to remind you with everything here, with this acknowledging the hurt, forgiving, and finding your purpose in the struggle. Remember, it doesn't mean that you're forgetting. It doesn't mean that you're ignoring your past. It doesn't mean you're doing that. It means you're going to use what has happened, the negative, and you're going to turn it for something good to help other people to do that. All right. So then how do we do that? How do we move forward in a healthy way? So um, we're gonna do some things. A lot of this stuff is conscious decisions you're gonna have to make. These aren't things that are gonna come naturally to you. So they're decisions you have to make. And then in the moment when the emotions kick in, you have to kind of go beyond the emotions and say, no, I've already done this. So we're gonna change the whole inner dialogue that we have. Okay. And so there's a bunch of different things. I would say one thing is changing from I can't to I haven't learned how to yet. Okay. This is one of the mindsets that I've been working with my kids on. They'll say, I can't do this. Like, no, you can do it. You just haven't learned how to do it yet, or you don't want to do it. Like, that's fine. Like, be honest, but like, I can't, right? So I can't overcome this trauma from my past. No, you just haven't learned how to overcome it yet. There is power. You can do it. And so you can start asking the question, how can I? And how do you do it? Well, you just find those mentors, you find those people. Find people. If they're not around you, then find them on YouTube. And if they're not on YouTube, then at least start documenting your journey and start reaching out to other people. And maybe you'll find those people, but there is a way through it, because there are people who survived the Holocaust who managed to go on and live thriving lives. I mean, they saw some of the worst tragedies that you could ever imagine, and yet they were still able to push forward and make a huge impact on society. And I believe that is still true for you and for me. Like, yeah, it's not going to be easy, but you can do it. There are ways, and you can find the strength in community in doing that. Next, set small achievable goals. And I'm gonna say this the way I said it a lot. This comes from Jordan Peterson, but you need to just break things down into as small as steps as you possibly need of something that you could do, that you would do to help break free from this mindset. So let's just say you're struggling with getting back out there with like finding a job. You were fired from your job unjustly. Okay, we're going to use this as our example. You're fired from your job unjustly. Somebody else did something wrong, and you end up taking the blame for it, and everything else. So how do you do this in a small, achievable way? Well, the first thing that you have to do is you got to update your resume, right? If you're going to get out there and going to start hunting for a job, well, maybe you can't do that. Maybe that's too overwhelming. So what do you need to do? Well, how about we just go to the computer and just open the resume? Just go find it. Or if you don't even know where it is, you're starting from scratch, just write your name at the top. Or start by watching videos about how to build a resume from scratch. Do something, break it into a small step as you could do, as you would do. And what you're going to find is a lot of times once you do that one thing, then the next step is a little bit easier. And that's what it is. It doesn't matter what the area is. That's an example, but figure out whatever area it is that you're stuck where you see yourself as a victim, and just break it down into smaller chunks as possible. When I was building this school group, I was like, this is kind of overwhelming to me. I don't know if I'm ready to do this. I don't know how to do this. And so instead I was like, okay, I'm going to go watch a video, and then I'm going to go learn, and then I'm going to go do one simple thing. And then once I do one simple thing, I'll see if I can replicate that a couple of times. And once I do that, then I'm going to find out what's the next thing I need to do. And the great thing about the internet, and specifically YouTube, but really the whole internet, is almost anything that you can possibly think of, someone has documented their journey on it. And that's why I would encourage you to document your journey as much as possible. But even if you aren't in that position, you can probably find people who have overcome things. So again, we already mentioned this in terms of my mentors and stuff, but find other growth minded people who are going to challenge you and who are going to support you. And again, same advice that as I gave above. If you don't have those people physically in your life right now, then find them. Find them. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I'm building community, because I know that I've grown. When I started this channel over a year ago, I was thinking, I'm here, I want to help other people. But so many people have also helped me in my growth journey. It's like, okay, well, we can all get better through community. And the more community we can build, the better everything is going to be. So that's what I would really want to do it. And then the next thing is replace bad habits with good habits. Replace unhealthy habits with healthy habits. There you go. Midnight's got a little practical tip for you on resumes. If that does resonate with you and you need to do that, employees know what the templates look like. Using them is not bad, but making them your own will help stand out. Absolutely. Yeah, I remember I put some extra things. I put some color in my resume and stuff like that. So thank you, Midnight, for dropping the knowledge. Hey, no, it's all good. It's all good. Hey, because maybe someone's watching this and they're like, okay, where do I begin? Okay, so develop habits, but here's the concept here. You don't want to just get rid of bad habits. You want to take a bad habit and you want to replace it with a good habit. Because if you develop a bad habit and then you just stop it, then what are you going to do? Eventually, when the stress hits or whatever, things aren't working, you're just going to go back to the bad habit. Instead, you got to replace it and say, okay, normally in the morning, I would go out and I would just get a donut every morning for breakfast because that was how I would get out of bed. That was my motivation to get out of bed. So now if you can say, instead, when I get out of bed in the morning, I'm going to, instead of going out for a donut every morning, I'm going to go for a walk every morning. And so now you're actually doubling what you do, right? Because stopping eating donuts every day is a good step forward. But exchanging even eating donuts every day for taking a walk every day is multiple steps forward, because now you didn't just stop doing something that was holding you back. You're starting to do something that's going to bring you forward to the next level of where you want to be. And so you can just do this, and you can do an audit. And so one of the things that I have on the school group is I have audits. So that way you can go through in each of those 5 areas and ask yourself questions and say, okay, this is something that's in my life that no longer needs to be there. And I know Elon Musk is taking a bunch of heat, but what if you went Elon Musk on every area of your life? And you just said, okay, I'm going to cut out absolutely every little bit of waste that I can find in my heart, every little bit of waste I can find in my soul, every little bit of waste that's taking up space in my mind, every little bit of waste that I'm doing that's hurting my body and my physical abilities, every little bit of financial waste, right? We talk about this with finances, but we can do this with every area of your life. What if you just took that butcher knife and you just cut out absolutely everything? Again, whether you agree with what Elon's doing on the government side or not, I think it's something that we need to be doing within our own lives. And so I've really been taking a lot of inspiration of that and saying, look, there's stuff I need to do. So here's the deal. Life is not fair. You should know that by now. And if you don't, I'm telling it to you. Life is not fair. Even if you got a good start to life, there's going to be something unfair that's going to come your way. But you don't need it to be fair to win. You've watched the movie Remember the Titans. I know I'm dating myself with this reference here, but if you've watched that movie, Remember the Titans, you know, in like one of the games, all the referees are kind of in cahoots and kind of keeping the Titans from being able to win the game. And then eventually they just say, look, this game is unfair, but we're going to leave no doubt that we're the better team. You know, one of the best ways to overcome a rigged system is just leave no doubt, give it your all, and do everything that you want. So I would love to hear any questions or other thoughts or comments. So thank you, Midnight. Tex, how's it going? Thanks for hanging out with us. Savage, how's it going? Pete, how's it going? Appreciate everybody being here. If you have any other questions or thoughts on overcoming this, I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say, because I do appreciate it. I'm not trying to tell you like, oh, just get over it and move on like that. No, that's not what I'm saying. I want to help you learn how to get over it so you can move on. And that's a really big difference. Remember the Titans is a great movie, Savage Batman, and basically that's what they have to do, right? It's a rigged system, and they learn how to win anyway, even though the system is rigged. And that's what I want to just kind of encourage everybody to do is like, look, even if you believe fully the system is rigged against you and you're going to get the raw deal and everything else, beat the system anyway. Find and acquire the skills that you need to go beyond it. So if you guys got any other questions or comments on any of this, I definitely want to take them here for the next couple of minutes. We're going to wrap things up here within the next 10 minutes or so, unless you guys have anything else. So that is cool. That's cool how that works, Midnight. Yeah. Oh, I just kind of thought that one wasn't even part of my notes for tonight to remember the Titans. But that's what I really picture. I guess I just came off of streaming on the Mets game on the other channel, so I guess my mind is just kind of on sports right now. All right, so what's your biggest takeaway from the chat? Let me know down in the comments below, and then I'm going to leave you guys with a challenge here in a second here of maybe some practical steps that you can take. But I'm going to tell you this. You may feel like you're stuck, but you're really not stuck because you're just simply one decision away from a new direction in whatever area of your life or your entire life feels like it's stuck right now. Whether it's like your whole life feels stuck, or maybe it's just one particular area. You're just one decision away of doing that. And I want to keep pushing in. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much. I want to just keep helping because I don't want anyone to ever fall as far down as I fell. And I think one of the best ways we can do it is just by gathering people together, building community on a deeper level. Even if we don't see eye to eye on every last little thing, we can still provide this encouragement. So what do you got? Biggest takeaway? Let me know, or any other thoughts or comments or questions before I drop the challenge that I have for you. All right. So here we go. For the next 7 days, 1 week. What is it? Thursday night. Yep. Even if you're perfect. Midnight. That's a great synopsis. Even if you're treading water, you're still moving. You just got to learn how to swim. Yep. Just stay afloat. Keep the head above water and keep gathering the skills. I knew what you said. I gotcha. There, I'll put it up for people watching it, treading. But yeah, you got to keep going. You got to keep moving forward. I've done this on long hiking trips, and I've taken kids like teenagers on hiking trips. They're just like, they get stuck because they're not sure what to do. And there's a simple thing you do. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Just keep hiking. Just keep moving, right? Or if you want to go a little old school, just keep swimming. Just keep swimming, right? Like that's what you got to do. All right. The next 7 days, don't complain. Don't complain about anything for 7 days. And when you catch yourself either complaining or wanting to complain, instead switch it to a solution or an action step. Okay. So don't complain for 7 days, 1 week. Try to be absolutely conscious of the fact of any time that you complain or want to complain, and then say, okay, what is the solution step to this? So you walk home and the house is a mess because your kids didn't clean up. Don't come in and complain, start yelling at the kids. What do you figure out the solution? Say, okay, did I clearly explain my expectations? Or are there other things going on with my kids that they were just so busy with other stuff and their schoolwork and sports that they didn't have time to clean? Or, is there something that I'm not taking care of their needs or whatever? Or is this just something I'm just going to clean up really quick because it's going to make me happy to clean it up? And it's really not that big of a deal, but it matters to me. So I'm just going to do it. So move from complaining to solution oriented over the next week. So that's the challenge. And finally, once again, I'm going to actually head over into the school group after this. I'm going to be working on building some more stuff out. I keep working on that framework and building it out. I'm going to be adding stuff in there pretty much every day. And so I tell you not to breathe. So I invite you over to the school group. Again, that link is in the description below. It is the first comment in the thread. I would love to have you come over, check it out, see if it's something that would work for you. I know a lot of you guys are super busy with a bunch of things, so absolutely no pressure, but I would love to have you and just kind of build some community. And like I said, we got people over there, so you can get in early so you can start climbing up that leaderboard right away. And we're going to have all sorts of fun things to unlock. And again, absolutely free, zero cost. We'll give you opportunities to jump to a paid group at some point in time, but this group will always be free. And if you like this sort of stuff, this is the type of stuff we're going to keep digging and diving in deeper, more and more as we go through. So with that in mind, I appreciate all of you. And I hope that this will help you if you're feeling stuck, feeling like a victim in some area. Maybe you didn't even realize you were feeling like a victim, but you are. I want to just say, hey, look, you can do it. Keep battling, keep fighting on the way out, and we're going to be here with you the whole journey. So I appreciate you so much, and have an awesome night. Large midnight.